Welcome to this recap of the challenge. I'm going to talk about the second episode of the challenge, which I've just watched moments ago. And yeah, it was an interesting episode. I like the cast as well. I've liked it. In fact, that is what got me into this season of the challenge. So really, I'm enjoying every moment so far. So far, at the time of recording, two episodes have aired, and yeah, really can't wait to talk about it. But first things first, please subscribe, please do like the video, and yeah, we'll get straight into it. So this season is featuring contestants from Survivor, Big Brother, The Amazing Race, and Love Island. And and it's quite interesting how it panned out. I want to talk a little bit first about what happened in the first episode. In the first episode, we saw previous relationships reunited. Examples include like Alisa, Alisa from Big Brother 23, reuniting with the Cookouts, Aza, Xavier, Kylan, and Tiffany. And if you watch the season, you would know about the cookout, right? The cookout is the biggest alliance, the best alliance rather in Big Brother history. It was an alliance made of black people. The whole purpose of the alliance was to have the first black winner of Big Brother USA version, and yeah, Alisa felt betrayed by that because she was close to Xavier, who was among the, let's say, founders of that alliance in Big Brother 23. So that was an interesting dynamic. So also, we got to see some others from Survivor reunite. You saw Tyson, Sarah, and a few other Survivor 41 players like Danny Shan. Many of those are many I will talk about in moments. We also saw from Love Island, Cinco and Cash reunited after their breakup. So that was interesting to see as well. And uh, what was a bit surprising from the cast was that there were only 3 or 4 amazing race players, and yeah, there were the fewest in the cast. They talked about it a bit in the first episode, and yeah, in terms of the social dynamic, it looked as though the Big Brother people were gonna stick together, the Survivor people were gonna stick together, the Love Island people stick together, and the Amazing Racers together. So that was the main dynamic in the first episode. But then, as the episode went on, it looked like the Big Brother people were going to team up with the Survivor people initially. And then what happened is Aza and Kyland ended up finishing last, and so happens that they were the Big Brother people, um, from Big Brother 23, and they finished last. So the strategy or the thinking based on the edited episode was that Tyson and Angela would pick strategically pick a partner, strategically pick a team that will probably most likely lose to Kyland and Asa. And for the most part, it looked like James and Shannon were going to be the replacements. Sorry, were going to be thrown into the challenge to play in the elimination challenge. And it turns out it ended up being Giovanni and Sally from Love Island. So that was a little bit of a blindside from the audience perspective. I was a bit shocked by it. I thought it was going to be James and Shannon, but I must talk about how James has done well really in this game. The first episode, as well as in this episode, the second episode, how he has been able to make things happen his way. Last week, he saved himself from potentially entering the elimination challenge, but was able to talk to Tyson and Angela, and was able to save himself from being thrown in there. And we saw Aza and Kylan, who were teamed up last week. They faced Giovanni and Sally. Giovanni and Sally ended up losing and were sent home as a result. And the last thing we saw from the first episode was that we learned that new partners would be selected randomly every week. So in previous seasons or in other variations of the challenge, usually partners stick together for a period of time. But in this one, there will be new partners each week. So, and this would be decided via an algorithm. So that'll be it for the first episode. Just a quick recap on that. Now, for the second episode, the second episode, the current episode, there were new partners we saw earlier on in the episode. The new algorithm, we saw the algorithm, the new partners being selected, and some of the notable partners are fact that Justine was partnered with Tyson, which was interesting because Tyson sent one of her close allies, Sally, into the challenge last week, as I mentioned. So that was a bit of an awkward situation between Tyson and Justin. But then we saw in the confessionals Tyson talking about um, using this, helping his partner, maybe Justin, helping his partner to win some money because he was coming in fact, into this episode as one of the favorites to win the challenge. It looks like going forward, even from just going forward, Tyson is favorite to win every challenge he goes into. It's almost as if you expect Tyson to win every challenge he goes into. We've watched him play Survivor 4 times. He's won once, and definitely one to watch. Is definitely one of the main cast I think of the season. I think is really gonna go far, and it shows in the edit he's either going to win the challenge or he would win the elimination challenge, whichever way. Tyson is already an early front runner, and yeah, other partners include Kashe and Cinco, who were paired together, and it was a bit funny because I mean, looking in, maybe not funny for them, but for us, the audience looking in, it was a bit funny because um, I'm not gonna pretend like I watch Love Island. I don't watch Love Island, but from of course the beats that we heard, they dated apparently on the show. Maybe they dated after the show, and they broke up. So interesting dynamic there. But then they both spoke about how they understood the need to work each other, to work together, to work with each other, to work as a team, because that is the only way they would go far in the game, at least to go past this round. And there was Aza and Xavier from Big Brother 23 paired together. There was Angela and Leo. I think Leo is among the three amazing racers left. And there was Kira and David, Alisa and Enzo, Kylan and Sarah, and many others that I shall mention in a bit. So going to the end of the episode, we saw that there were three pairs, I believe, who were in contention to be thrown into the challenge. Um, First things first, I believe it was James and Kayla who lost the challenge. They lost the challenge, which meant that they would go into the elimination round. So therefore, it was a question of who would join them. After Tyson and Justin won, they won the challenge. They won the main challenge, and Tyson is a beast. That was an amazing performance in the challenge. So they won the challenge, therefore, which meant that they would choose which pair goes in to the elimination ring against James and Kayla, who I think James had a terrible time in the challenge. We all saw that. So on the chopping block was, from what we saw on the edit, it was Aza and Xavier from Big Brother 23. Who else? Who else? There was Cashel and Tiffany, and there was Alisa and Enzo. So it was, yeah. So I was a bit shocked that Tiffany and Cashel were sent into the elimination ring. In fact, Tiffany coming in was one of my favorite players. We'd seen her from Big Brother last year, played an amazing game. Was really looking forward to seeing her play this season. We did see her play the first two episodes, and I really can't put my finger as to why Tyson and Justin chose to put throw in Tiffany and Cashel. We saw a conversation between Tiffany and Tyson, so we thought, okay, looking in, I thought that okay, Tiffany has worked a magic. Um, among the three potential shortlisted potential nominees, I thought, okay, Tyson would have listened to Tiffany and maybe Tiffany won't be thrown in there. But turns out I was wrong. And of course, not just some of us were wrong as well. And yeah, it's interesting how that worked out. So Tiffany was an interesting character throughout the season. The two episodes, of course, we saw her in somewhat of a, let's say, close relationship with Cinco and Tiffany. Um, we saw Cinco carry Tiffany to bed, and so, Tiffany's reputation in the game, of course, as a manipulator and a mastermind, and this is actually based from her performance in Big Brother 23. Yes, we did see a bit of her trying to work her magic, but I guess it didn't work this time. So yeah, what else did we see in the episode? So basically, just trying to break down why Kashal and Tiffany were sent into the elimination ring. We saw Survivor people like Shan talking about how Tiffany was the glue to the BB23 alliance and perhaps the Big Brother 23 players. So yeah, we saw a bit of Pastor Shan from Survivor 41. We saw her a bit in this second episode, and yeah, we even saw like an edit, like the Shan news edit, where she explains to us that it's strategic. That and, she's a very strong social player, and it's clear also, just to conclude, the Survivor players are working together. So I really see them going far. And then we have, yeah, what else is there to talk about? Kayla, James, and Leo are the only three amazing racers left. And it was interesting because James and Kayla were partnered, so that's already two. And yeah, James is playing an amazing game, I must say. I think one of my favorite players so far. He's really, I usually like the social strategic element of this type of games, this type of shows, and I like the way he's playing it. And he saved himself last week, and in fact, based on the edited conversation, we saw that he threw Tiffany and Cashel's names to Tyson and Justin. And yeah, interesting gameplay really to get the way he wants, the way what to get his way. And also Alisa, yeah, we talked about Alisa and Enzo were also potentially next in line or potentially in line. They also turns out they were not. Alisa wasn't too keen to working with Tiffany, and it looked like on the edit, X was ready to move on in the game without Tiffany. So um, Alisa and Enzo were on the chopping block, and we saw a conversation between Alisa and Xavier. And Alisa spoke about how maybe potentially Xavier wasn't looking out for him as much as she would like. And she also talked about how she was friends with Xavier for 65 days in the Big Brother house. And it's clear to see that Alisa is still a bit hurt by the fact that she feels a bit played by she felt a bit played rather by Xavier from BB23. So interesting how since they've gone further in the game, how that will affect any relationships um, that they will have forward going into the game. And let's talk about the challenge. I had mentioned that amazing performance from Tyson, not a good performance from James. They ended up with 0 words. It was, I think the name of the challenge was Yeah Boy. Interesting name. And the win apparently in this the winners, from what we saw, I'm just still trying to grasp this, but winners take $10,000 split. You need $5,000, for the final. So when you win a challenge or the challenge, you split $10,000 between you and your partner, and you also win $5,000 for the and 5,000 sorry $5,000 qualifies you for the finals. So you need at least $5,000 to make the finals. So how many words you can make? That was the name of the challenge, and yeah, we saw some interesting performances from other players. Sarah is a badass. Officer Sarah, Officer Lassina from Survivor also played Survivor 3 times, and yeah, she's won Survivor as well. So she's really a strategic player. Really, from watching, big fan of Survivor and Big Brother. So I've seen her play 3 times. Really strategic, and one probably, in fact, arguably one of the best ever winners of Survivor based on her gameplay. Mm, on top of that, what else was there? Yeah, we saw Tyson. Tyson is a big time challenge threat. And this was, yeah, yet again, another brilliant performance on Tyson. Um, Even Danny described Tyson as an absolute animal, and, really is strong player. We also saw Desi. Desi's a powerhouse. I think even Kashay talked about how Desi has biceps and how she saw Desi carrying biceps with salt. Sorry, say Desi carrying salt with her biceps, and she's sweet and all that. Yeah, and yeah, that's just about it. Please do comment below. Yeah, and tell me your thoughts. What's your take on why did Tyson and Justin choose to put Tiffany and Cashel into the elimination round? It's how did it end up being them instead of the other potential? I think the fact that the Big Brother players were ready to let go of Tiffany, and Tiffany's reputation as a strong player might have been her downfall. And I'm a little bit sad that she's left the game. I'm sad she's left the game. I was really looking forward to seeing how far she would go. She went really far on Big Brother at 23, which we watched last year. So I really wanted to see how far she would go. So tell me more. What are your thoughts on that? And yeah, um, thank you for your time. And yeah, look out. I'll talk about Big Brother tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to post another video. So yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting more. So I'll see you guys later in a bit. Peace.